Hey everyone, Rascally Rasmus here. Today we're going to be talking about some more tips and tricks for Nightingale, and yeah, it's been a little while since I played Nightingale, but I finally found the time to actually play through the rest of the story content, and so now I'm finally at the start of the end game, so I figured now I'd do some more little tips and tricks I've picked up along the way. And at the end of the video, we're also going to be talking about some tips and tricks from you guys, as always, so stay tuned for that too. And with that, let's just get straight into it. The first thing I want to talk a bit about is fishing. Fishing in Nightingale is pretty simple. You basically throw out your fishing line and you hold. Once the fish bites, you click, and then you hold the left click button to deal damage. And you have this tension line, and to not have this tension line break, you need to basically keep looking at the fish. And so fishing basically scales with melee damage. So to fish more efficiently, you want to stack more melee damage. So the goal is that you basically want to keep looking at the fish and you want to have as much melee damage as possible, and you want to just keep holding your left click. You do, however, also need to be aware of your stamina, because doing more difficult fish, especially while you're still at lower stamina levels, can easily drain your stamina. And so it's important to know that while you're fishing, it's okay to let go of the fishing, or reeling in. The fish will regenerate a bit of health, as you'll see here, but it will not flee as long as you keep looking at it. And your stamina will regen quite quickly. So yeah, just something to be aware of. The next thing I want to talk about is that once you make it to the watch, to the start of the end game, if you will, you should, from Iva here, very early on be purchasing the upgrade bench. Don't neglect this, because with the upgrade bench, you can also buy these so you can do rare upgrades and epic upgrades. But with these, you can basically increase the base item power of your items, first from common to uncommon, and then from uncommon to rare, and then from rare to epic. And to upgrade these items, it only costs tier 4 essence. So as soon as you start gathering some tier 4 essence, you can basically be upgrading your items. And each upgrade gives roughly 10% extra stats on the item, including the actual damage on the item. And so it's very worthwhile doing this, and it should definitely be one of your highest priorities once you make it to the watch to unlock this ASAP. Next, I want to talk about a couple of quick tips. And so, as I'm sure you know, in the crafting menu here, you can track items to keep track of what you need. But you can also do this directly from a workbench. And this took me quite a while to realize. But if you right-click something here, it will actually also auto-track it, which can be very helpful. Also, while crafting things, like in this case, if I need a refined action, I don't remember what's needed for refined action. But if we go over here and find the refined action, we'll see that it's an action and mechanical gears. And so then I need to remember to craft those, but it might actually be helpful to just right-click this too, so you can see it out by the side and use this to keep track of your crafting needs. I at least find it helpful. And with that, I also want to say that as you're playing through, especially the early game, when you're still getting tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 materials, don't be stingy with them. I've been way too stingy with them, and as you approach the late game, they essentially become useless because you want to get better crafting materials than your old crafting materials. So I strongly recommend that you spend them and use your good stuff as you level up as well. Next, I want to talk a bit about the climbing picks. The climbing picks is it's a little embarrassing, but I didn't actually realize that you can use the climbing picks for climbing. And I'm sure most of you did notice, but just in case somebody like me hasn't noticed, if you walk up to a wall here and then jump and then press space again, you'll actually start climbing with the climbing picks. And while speaking of that, we have the first tip from you guys, which comes from Negative ROG, which points out that, as you can see, the indicator here in the middle of the screen will actually tell us when you're close enough to be able to hook onto something. So once it's all the way together, you're close enough. When there's nothing, they'll be further from each other, and they'll move closer and closer as you get in range, basically. So yeah, it's very helpful being aware of this indicator, so thank you so much for the tip. Next, I want to talk a bit about difficulty. As I'm sure you know, there are 4 difficulties in Nightingale. You can change these difficulties when resting or when first opening a new realm. These difficulties essentially don't seem to impact the quality of materials, it won't make the tier of materials higher or give you better essence or anything like that, but it will scale the amount of essence you get. And so as far as I can tell, you get an additional 20% extra essence per difficulty increase above balanced. So increasing to champion will net you 20% extra essence, and increasing to nightmare will net you 40% extra essence. This does, however, increase the monster levels quite significantly as well. So it's mostly useful in terms of grinding out lower tier essences where you can pretty easily do it anyways, in terms of efficiency at least. That being said, there is something to the content not being too easy and just enjoying playing the content as well. It's not all about efficiency is what I'm trying to say here. For the next tip, I just want to recommend that you build some portals here in your bases. You can pretty easily build them and you can have as many as you'd like as far as I can tell. The portals are very nice, you can put different realm cards in them and this can be very helpful. And speaking about realm cards, I want to talk a bit about the realm cards because I did not really utilize them much at all playing through the Storied Realms. And so it's important to note that when you use a realm card, it is consumed. And so you can obviously craft more, but you do consume the one you use. So that's also another reason to possibly have multiple portals, so you don't have to keep closing the realms you have open to go into other realms, but can instead just leave multiple realms accessible from your base. I also wish that I would have been way better at utilizing the minor realm cards when I was playing through the game, because not only do they visually look super, super cool, in my opinion, you can really make some cool looking areas. They also have some very beneficial effects. It's very worth looking through them all. I'm not going to be going through them, but there are a lot of effects that are very good. And so when you're looking for a specific resource, it makes a lot of sense to make a portal that corresponds with the resource you need. So if you need wood, maybe you want to go to an antiquarian realm. As you can see here, antiquarian realms increases the yield of wood. Similarly, an astrolabe realm will increase the yield of stone and so forth. And so if we use farming as an example, it makes a lot of sense to have your farm, if you want to farm, be in a herbarium realm, because herbarium realms gives extra plant yield. And so it makes a lot of sense planting your stuff here. So one of my portals in my base basically leads to this realm, and then I have a lodestar right next to my plants here. In terms of what minor card to use, the best one is probably using the greenhouse card because it increases plant yield quite significantly. But if you're more like just want to do farming more casually, want to do as little work as possible, I would suggest maybe instead doing the Tempest card or any other card that makes it permanently rain, because this will keep your crops watered at all times, which means all you need to do is come harvest, pop in some new seeds, and you're done. You know, you don't need to spend time actually watering stuff, and the crops will grow even while you're not in the realm. So all you need to do is plant and pop in whenever you have the time or desire to do so. And obviously this will mean a lot more if you do a way bigger farm than I have here. Whereas if it's just a few here, it probably makes more sense to use a watering can and just get it over with. This is all just to say that keep both the major cards and the minor cards in mind when looking for stuff, when farming resources, and also when crafting, because there's a lot of cards that actually increase different stats depending on what card you've played. And this also brings us to our second tip from the comments, which comes from Princess of Erased. So thank you very much for this tip. Princess of Erased is suggesting that you craft one of these crude remote realmic transmuter, so you can put it in your base and easily play cards. And that makes a ton of sense when crafting, because as you switch out different cards for a melee weapon, a ranged weapon, or whatever, you don't really want to be running over to the realmic transmuter of the realm. So it's a lot more handy to just have it in your base. Also nice if you just want to change the aesthetic like I've done here to something cool looking. Princess of Erased also suggested using the artisan card, which can give you all the environmental perks to your crafting station, so well lit, warm, so on, automatically without you having to worry about actually placing the lanterns and stuff around it. So that's also a very good tip. The next tip, I just want to point out that you can reset realms. This goes for Storied Realms too, so if there's somewhere you really like to farm, want to do the points of interest again, you actually can. In terms of doing it, you just walk up to a portal. When you close the portal and replay the card, you can click Reset Realm down here, and this will essentially reset the realm completely when you play the card. And for my last tip, before we get into all the tips from you guys, I want to talk a bit about what's it called? Track Legend, the spell here. This spell can be extremely helpful, especially in combination with the Spyglass, which I've talked about before. When I made it here to the Forest Gauntlet and had to find the Elder Eodon, I was really struggling with finding it, and this spell can just be extremely helpful because it will lead your way. As you can see, you can follow these little sparks, basically, and sometimes you need to recast it, but it will basically lead you towards the nearest fabled beast or boss enemy or anything like that. And so it basically can lead you straight to the Elder Jotun. I'm not exactly sure in what order it prioritizes them, because it's not necessarily the closest one as far as I can tell in my testing, but it definitely does work. And in combination with the spyglass, it makes it very easy to, yeah, you can see the Elder Jotun is actually right here, but it can make it very easy to locate what you're looking for. And in general, just when farming for fabled creatures, it can be a very, very helpful spell. So I do recommend using it and trying it out, but it does take a little bit getting used to. And with that, let's just get into some tips from you guys. Kjell von Mø... No. So first up, we have 3 tips from... I'm not going to try to pronounce your name because, yeah, I have tried. I'm not going to use that footage. I butchered it really hard, trust me. It's going to be on screen. But yeah, we have 3 great tips here. And the first of these is that in my previous video, I mentioned how you could use your follower to carry stuff around for you. And yeah, this tip is essentially to be aware that the follower doesn't have any like weight limit. So it makes a lot of sense to give your follower all the really heavy stuff. And technically this backpack I've given the follower is taking up storage capacity from the follower, because the follower doesn't need the weight increase. So it's something to be aware of. If you want to maximize what your follower can carry, you should just be giving your follower all the heavy stuff. The next tip from Kjell is this Peppy's box. It's very, very helpful in terms of moving stuff around from realm to realm. So, and it's really helpful. So I definitely recommend using it too if you need to move stuff around. And also that it's like the follower has no weight limit either. So put all the heavy stuff in it and you can pick it up back home. So you can technically just carry around the stuff to make one of these, and you can fill it with a bunch of heavy stuff and then just grab it when you're back home. The last tip from Kjell is essentially that if you need to move something heavy around, like we've talked about before, you can go into the moving stuff and you can move a chest with materials in it. And this also means that while out in the wild, it's very easy to just find enough fiber that you can craft a basket, and then you can put all your heavy stuff in the basket, and then you can pick up the basket and essentially walk with the basket all the way home, instead of walking very, very, very slowly over encumbered. Then we have another name I'm gonna butcher, Leshashta 9652, I know I butchered it, is pointing out how you should really make sure that you break down all the stuff. When you find a Fey box, like the one I have here actually, break them down with your axe or whatever. They can be a very good early source of gilded wood, other stuff. This also goes for walls with cracks in them, etc. There's often like stuff hidden behind them, crates, all this stuff. It makes a lot of sense to basically just break everything. Leshasta is also pointing out that in Sylvan's Cradle, you can also break down the Peppy's box that's in the little village. And if you're unhappy with how it looks after you've broken everything, you can just reset the realm. So yeah, breaking down stuff is definitely a super good tip. Thank you so much for sharing that as well. It was quite helpful in my playthrough. I definitely started doing it a lot more afterwards. And then for the last tip, we have a name I hope I can actually pronounce, which is Glitched Vision, is saying that with Oberyn's Bounty, the enchantment, the spell that gives your pickaxe and axe more damage and increased resource yield, that this actually works for your other things too, so your hunting knife and also your sickle. So if you cast it on those, they will also give you increased material yield. So that's a super good tip as well. If you're trying to farm leather or something, then you should definitely be casting it before you skin the animals that you have slain. And that's going to be it for the tips. Currently I'm working on a review and possibly also some other stuff for Nightingale. I might also do some more like advanced guides now that I'm actually getting into the end game. But yeah, let me know if you're interested in those and if there's anything specific you'd like to see. And with that, as always, if you've enjoyed the video, if you want to see more, consider liking and subscribing. It's really appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Have a very nice day. Until next time.